Hey guys, this is Preston again from Discount Mower. Earlier video I showed you guys how to replace the fuel lines on the same weed eater, and once I got the fuel lines replaced I found out that the carburetor needs to be rebuilt. I didn't want to mention that in the first video to avoid discouraging anyone, but normally if the fuel lines rot off you're going to have to rebuild the carburetor, or it should be rebuilt. In this video I'm going to show you how to rebuild or clean a carburetor if the diaphragms and everything on the inside are okay. First thing we're going to want to do is remove our breather plate, as I've already done. Pull our fuel lines. When we pull our carburetor off, some of the carburetors have different holes where your throttle cable hooks up. You want to take that and just make sure you get it back in the same hole. Alright, move this out of the way. So now we got our carburetor in our hand, and what we're going to want to do here is first thing I always tend to do is pull the jets out of it. It'll be marked low on one side and high on the other. You can't really see it here probably, but always once you take them out, sometimes I have a little washer or a spring on them. There's that little washer here. Take them and separate them. Remember which side goes in low, which side goes in high. Sometimes the jets will be longer or shorter. A lot of times, to distinguish them apart, they'll have different threads and they actually won't fit in the other holes. I just put them up out of the way somewhere. Take this other one out here. Okay, and then same thing, just put it somewhere where you know the difference in what you have. Move this down. From here, you can take off your primer bulb side. The carburetor is going to be different. The one you have may look different than this one, but it's generally the same principle. This one actually has two different plates on it, so it is a little different than the most common carburetor. But we'll pull this off, and what we're going to find under here is a diaphragm and a screen, and if you can see in there, that screen is clogged up with gunk. You can see there, that's normally what causes it to not want to run right. This is actually a filter inside the carburetor, that screen there, and that's the main entrance for your fuel, so it's a good thing to have that, otherwise you'd be rebuilding these things all the time. On the other side we have our fuel pump diaphragm. This actually works off a crankcase vacuum, and every time it moves up and down, I'll show you here, this is your diaphragm. Every time it moves up and down, it pushes on the needle and seat here and lets fuel in. So commonly referred to as a metering diaphragm. From there, we'll take out our needle and seat. Put your finger over this as you take it out, because there is a spring underneath of it. I normally just put my thumb over it like that, and then you can take the spring out, or the screw out. Once the screw's out, just take it upside down and drop it, and then you can actually see the spring there. You don't want it to shoot off, because if you lose it you'll never find another one like it unless you already have a kit. Then you have your needle seat. This is your needle seat. That's actually what stops the flow of fuel. This one was leaking, so I could tell it was leaking past the needle seat. Alright, from there you basically have the carburetor housing. Some people will tell you to take the Welch plugs out of them, which are here. I never do. A carburetor kit will come with them. Don't worry about it. They're not worth fooling with, especially as cheap as carburetors are nowadays. And unless you have the proper tools to take them out and put them back in, you'll never get it back in there, and they won't seal, and your carburetor will never be right. But from here, I drop it in a vat of carburetor cleaner. I actually have an ultrasonic cleaner that does pretty well with these. So I drop it in there, If you have good carburetor cleaner, leave it 15 to 30 minutes and it'll come out sparkling new. So I'm going to drop that in there. And then your fuel pump diaphragm, as I mentioned in the beginning, to find out if they're bad or not. These are, you have your first one here, this is like a plastic. These never go bad. I mean, unless they're torn or bent, they hardly ever go bad. But this is your main one that goes bad because it's like a rubber. They should be really soft. If you can hear that, this one kind of has a crackle to it. It is kind of hard. It'll probably be alright for now, but if they're real hard and stiff or cracked, you'll definitely want to replace it. You can get those at any local lawnmower shop. I'm building a website and I'm probably going to sell carburetor kits on there pretty cheap, so if you need one. Other than that, it's the basics of tearing it down. As soon as this one gets done soaking, I'll be back. You won't know, it'll be a short pause in the video, and we will put it back together. And we're back. This was in here about 10 minutes or so. These ultrasonic cleaners are amazing. If you rebuild a lot of these and you're not just trying to do this on your own, buy an ultrasonic cleaner. I've been in business 3 years now, and I just got one recently, and if it broke, I'd go buy another tomorrow. You can see how clean it is. Anyway, once you take these apart, you get down to the housing here, there's really nothing to fall apart, nothing to worry about. What we'll do first is I always like to put the needle and seat back in first, because I've found, always wipe your needle off too. That's what I'm doing now. And it should be, most of the needle seats are actually orange, so just take it and wipe it on a towel or, you know, your shirt, whatever. But I always see this is kind of flat over here, so I like to be able to lay the carburetor down. And what I'll do is I will take my spring, which I have lost. There it is. Take the spring and always take it and set it down like that first. You can see that, and just kind of be careful you don't knock it over. Then you can take your needle, hang it back on like this, put your pin through it, and then you'll see where your pin sets through. Kind of set your needle or your pin back where it'll just kind of set in there, and then hold it like this and just set it back on top. And then, like you did in the beginning when you took the screw out of it, hold your thumb over it. You can take your screw, set it back on there, take your screwdriver and tighten it back down. Now there is an adjustment on these. They make a gauge to adjust these. I don't use it. I just take a screwdriver, and the screwdriver's flat, and what you do, you actually adjust this up to where when you lay a flat screwdriver or anything across it, it just barely makes contact with it. And that's how you adjust these. And once you're there, you can actually put your diaphragm back on. If you're putting a new diaphragm on it, it won't be stuck together with the gasket. But on this side, your gasket always goes down first, and then your diaphragm sets down on top of it. The little rubber diaphragm. So gasket, then diaphragm. Put this back on. Put your screws back in it and just tighten it down. They don't have to be super tight, just hand tight. You don't want to strip the screws out into the metal or the aluminum. Put that back in. Snug them down, and then you'll flip over to the other side, and same principle here, except your plastic diaphragm on this side always goes down first, like that, and they'll only go one way. You'll see how they kind of line up. You can't put it the wrong way. You'll line that up, and you'll take this, set this back on top. They actually have alignment pins, makes it real easy. Just set that on there, and put that back. Now most of your carburetors that y'all be working on, unless it's like this, won't have this extra diaphragm. It's the same principle as what I'm showing you here. You just won't have this. You'll have your primer plate here, and it'll set right on top of this diaphragm here. So just kind of disregard that. Put your primer bulb back on. Like this, tighten it down, and from there you'll bolt your carburetor back on, and you'll definitely want to put your jets back in, and I about forgot that. Grab your jets. Always wipe them off. You can take a rag or your shirt. I use my shirt. My wife jumps all over me all the time about it, but you know, that's what a mechanic does. A lot of your jets won't have this little rubber piece in here that holds it. You'll actually have a spring, which is the most common. These are kind of common too, and when you first get into them, a lot of them will have these limiter caps. There'll be a white and a red limiter cap. You grab them with a pair of needle nose or pliers or whatever and just yank them off. You don't want them. Okay, so this was our high jet, so we're going to go back in the high side here. We're going to grab our low side jet, put it back in the low side. Then a lot of people don't know where to set these. You're going to screw them all the way down to snug. You'll feel when they bottom out, and you don't want to over tighten them because you'll mushroom the jet or else the inside of the carburetor. Once you do that, you're done. You have to buy a new carburetor. So you just tighten it down, and you'll actually feel it. It'll get snug, and then it'll stop. And once they stop, back them out 1 to 1.5 turns a piece. I found best that I start at 1.5 and adjust it in from there. But what you'll do is it'll normally start, and then you can shut down. You can adjust your low end to an idle. I got interrupted. There's going to be a little funny pause in the video. Like I said, I do this actually working on people's equipment at my shop. So I had a customer come in, and I was fooling with his equipment. But anyway, I went ahead and put the other one back together already. It run great. But what I was saying about the high and low, turn them in, back them out 1 to 1.5 turns a piece, fire it up, and then once it goes to, you want to adjust your low end first and get a nice idle. That's the way I do it. But at 1.5 turns, it'll probably want to kind of bog out on you. Screw it back in a little bit. You're going to be playing with about a half a turn either way. And you'll get that fine, nice idle where it'll just sit there and idle. Once you get that, rev it up, hold it wide open, and adjust your high end. What you want to do there, back it all the way out, or open it up until it starts to bog down, and then crank it back in just a little bit at a time, and you'll hear the engine start to rev up, and it'll get a nice high rev to it, and you'll hear it kind of go from a high rev to a sort of like almost a little bog. It'll kind of jump back and forth. Right there is where you want to be. And what that is it's right on the verge of running too lean and too rich, which is right where you want it. A lot of people will start them up, run them wide open, and then crank them down till they get the highest RPMs out of them. And then when they do that, the engine actually gets hot, and it leans out, and it shortens the life of the motor, which is also one of the reasons why I always adjust the low end first, so the engine has a few minutes to warm up. And then once I start it, I let it run, get it nice and hot, and make sure I have the high end adjusted right. Other than that, your carburetor should be rebuilt by now. If you've followed along, you're going to do it now, and it should run. If you have any questions, any requests, I work on most anything. I can help you. Don't mind making a video answering questions. I'm new to YouTube, new to these videos. This is my second one. The first one was on the fuel line replacement, but I don't think the video sound quality come out too well because I had it enclosed in the GoPro case. This one I don't. Hopefully this will turn out better. But like I said, if you need anything, don't hesitate to ask.